Can we request you to please move up? It's a session about the aviation market, and I'm sure you all are excited to find out how you can travel to your destinations better. So we will be taking the panel through, or rather the panel will take us through, the opportunities which are there in the aviation market, the Indian aviation market, and also what are the challenges. So I'm sure you all want to get those insights. So can I please request all of you all to please move ahead? Ma'am, can I request you to please come ahead? We have enough seats here. So may I request you all to please join us here so that we can have some more energy in the house. So already you can see the panelists. We will be having Chetan Kapoor, who is the research analyst for Asia Pacific and then we'll be having Mr. Rajkumar Paranthaman, head of marketing from AirAsia India. And we'll have Jet Airways Vice President, Senior Vice President, Sivakumar, also followed by two more names, which I'm going to announce soon. So if we can have you, please take the audience, the chair in front to join us. Thank you. This session starts out and becomes even more exciting while we proceed. So traveling is something which is a passion, I'm sure, and that's exactly the reason why we are all here. But how do we travel makes a lot of difference, and I'm sure when it comes to booking flights, you all must have found out that the prices have been fluctuating. So there are a few challenges the aviation industry has been facing so far, whether it's the fuel prices going up, or a lot of things which they can share the insights on. So may I request on stage our eminent panelists who are waiting in the wing, Mr. Chetan Kapoor, Research Analyst, Asia Pacific for Phocuswright Inc. Can we give a big hand to him? Okay, next we have Rajkumar Paranthaman, Head of Marketing, Asia Pacific, India. Welcome, sir. Next we have Sivakumar, Senior Vice President, Jet Airways. Joining us now, we have Nitin Sethi, Vice President, Digital, Indigo. Finally, we have Mr. Salim Khan, Chief Security Officer for Emirates in India. We are looking forward to this session, so over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. So our panel this afternoon is the future of Indian aviation. For context, India is one of the world's fastest growing airline markets. Passenger traffic growing 10x year on year, supply at an equal or slightly faster pace depending on the economy. And it's been consistent for the last 5 years at least, and it continues to grow with new airports opening up. So with that in mind, our panelist here will talk passenger experience, the issues at airports, securities, and how it all ties back into this bigger opportunity that there is in India. So to begin with, just quickly, maybe 30 seconds or under, talk a little bit about your airline, how it's been in the last year in terms of performance, growth numbers, things like that, so that the audience, we just get some more audience before we dive into it.
It's on, right? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for setting up the pace. 2018 has been an amazing year for the entire aviation in India. The numbers were out. We were around 19% growth is what we have witnessed in 2018. It's quite impressive. But that growth also came in with quite a lot of sacrifice from the airlines because this is one year where most of the airlines, including the big ones, were not really making as much money they were making before. From an AirAsia perspective, we did launch 5 destinations in the last year. We also had inducted 3 more aircrafts into the fleet. The 4th one has just come in. And apart from that, if you look at AirAsia, when we speak about AirAsia, it's not just AirAsia India, but we also have our group airlines flying into India, which the India team takes care of. They operate to 11 destinations in India. So there, we also seen that quite a lot of new routes being launched. From Thailand, we have launched a few more destinations. Vizag is something which we launched. Jaipur, then we launched Bhubaneswar, Gaya. These are quite a lot of destinations which we launched. Even from Malaysia, we launched Amritsar. So there is a lot of growth potential which is there, which as a group we are really are committed to this market, and we see that it's only going up. Though there are some interim pressures in terms of the cost, in terms of the capacity being deployed by the other carriers, which actually puts a lot of pressure on the system because traditionally, if you look at India as a country, we're not a leisure-driven country. It's more like a VFR. We're more like business and small medium. That's where we're really lived upon. We don't have that many Goas in this country. We don't have that many Darjeelings or Manali. This is something which we need to really look at as a future in terms of driving domestic travel. If not, otherwise we are going to all fight with the same old guy, business guy who's actually flying. We're actually doing favor by reducing the fare. Right? So this is from my side.
Hi everyone, Raj Sivakumar. I run worldwide sales and distribution for Jet Airways. We are in the news for a number of different reasons, but let me focus on what we are doing from a network and a commercial standpoint. Those of you that may not know, we are the largest carrier out of India, when you sort of put domestic and international together. The market is growing incredibly, perhaps the fastest growing aviation market in the world. We are going to be in the top 3 very soon, in terms of the size of the aviation market. But it's an incredibly challenging market as well. It's, when you sort of compare it with the mature markets such as the United States and Europe, we are still very much in the infancy stage. There are certain carriers that are growing much faster than the other carriers. And when you sort of get into that mode, and the market also has a certain level of affordability, within India, that is a notch or 2 lower than the affordability that you have in other markets. On the flip side, the operating cost in India is not that much lower than the operating cost worldwide. Okay, so when you sort of put the two together, it puts enormous pressure on the airlines, and it makes it incredibly challenging. Okay, and let's also be clear. The growth in the Indian market, is coming on the back of the low fares. A lot of times we compete with the trains, when we price our seats, and the moment we start charging a real airfare, you don't see that 20% growth anymore. Okay, so the people in India are still willing to fly, but they're willing to fly at a price, and quite simply, it's a question of whether that price makes the airlines viable or not. Okay. So what we are doing at Jet is, we are, constantly evolving our network. I'm going to focus on the international side. We have a truly global footprint. We are a well-entrenched carrier in UK between our London and Manchester services. We have a highly successful joint venture going with Air France-KLM, with onward codeshare connectivity with Delta. Deep presence in Singapore, Bangkok, Hong Kong, and the SAARC countries, and a deep presence in the Gulf market. So we believe we are quite relevant, to the Indian diaspora, both incoming and the outgoing markets. We connect the travel, so we are a fairly large Sixth Freedom carrier, carrying passengers between London and Bangkok, Kathmandu, London, United States and the SAARC points, etc. So we do a lot of thinking, brainstorming on how best to kind of evolve our international network, while continuing to compete in the domestic marketplace, which obviously is incredibly challenging.
Hi, I'm Nitin Sethi. I head digital for Indigo Airlines. To start with a few good facts about Indigo, we are the only Indian aviation player who's profitable. We have more than 207 odd planes. We fly 1,300 daily flights. We flew 6.5 million passengers per month. And we almost now fly to 15 international destinations also. So we are one Indian player who's going global and driving the growth. We own close to 43% market share so far. Our growth is primarily now coming through millennials and tier 2 towns with our, of course, infrastructure is getting improved and new airports are coming, and we continue to add close to 40-50 odd planes year on year for next 5-6 years. And that trend even happened last year when we added one plane every week in last 1 year, so close to 48 odd planes. With that, of course, there are a lot of challenges because Indian customers are very demanding. And like he said, my friend said that, whenever you start charging for something, there are challenges, selling seats after certain price points. But this is the best time to be in India and leading that growth because infrastructure is getting better, customers are evolved, and people value time because it makes sense to spend 3,000 rupees not on airplane, not on a train, and spend 4,000 rupees on a plane and save those 3-4 extra hours, even if you're going from Delhi to Jaipur. So with that, we're getting a lot of traction, and though with a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of challenges, and I'm sure as a ecosystem will all, I was mentioning that there are 4 boxers in the ring at one arena, so it'll be interesting debate.
I got it. Hi everyone. I'm an aviation security guy, but just to go with the flow, I'll probably say that we have the largest fleet of 380s. We are industry leaders. We are doing well, and inshallah we will continue to do well. If I could answer this in one line in terms of talking about our branding, we were known as Hello Tomorrow until some time back. Now we are called Fly Better. So we are doing better. Thank God for it.
So, looking at the spectrum of panelists representing airlines, different stages of maturity, target markets equally, one thing that is still quite common is the aviation infrastructure that all of you operate in. In this booming marketplace, how are you looking at the infrastructure also picking up, which ties in deeply with passenger experiences? Because again, India is one of those few precious markets where you're having first-time travelers in such abundance. So what are the expectations that goes in to making that passenger experience smooth and memorable in that context? For it. Go for it. Anyone.
So for us, I think the core 3 pillars where Indigo stands, being on time, hassle-free, and a cost-effective experience. That's how we build the company from last 1 decade, and it's continued to remain the same. On the infrastructure perspective, I think infrastructure is getting with month on month, and with more innovation happening on operations and cost optimization side, I'm sure there is a lot of good work which is going in, and government schemes like a digital boarding pass. Now all the 4 major airports doesn't need a stamping. So a lot of that work will continue to save time as well as increase the green footprint.
Yeah, it is. The Indian aviation air traffic system is getting to be incredibly capacitated. That is a fact. Probably saying the most obvious thing. When you sort of look at the Indian market vis-a-vis some of the mature markets, there's just a significant amount of travel that happens between the metro cities, right? When you take the top 5 or 6 metro cities, Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, and when you sort of do all the two-way travel that happens between the metro cities vis-a-vis the travel that happens outside of these metro cities, the affluence sits there, the travel sits there, Unfortunately, the ability for the carriers to add any more capacity, in any of these metro cities is next to nothing now. Okay, India is a very metro-centric market, as compared to Europe, for example, which is very fragmented. Okay, so how do we kind of get over that, right? And there is airport work underway. Navi Mumbai, Delhi is talking about, Bangalore is talking about additional runway. So over the next 4 to 5 years, we are going to see a fair bit of expansion of capacity. But what is likely to happen is between now and when we sort of get there, okay, I think there is going to be a choking that happens. And a lot of the traffic growth that we are observing is because of the tier 2, tier 3 capacity being added, okay? And which is good, the fact that we are enabling our customers to fly, between non-metro to non-metro is all good. But at the end of the day, the demand sits in the metros. And how are we going to be able to fulfill the demand? To a certain degree, that will happen when we start deploying larger aircraft, okay? And so it's sort of like Japan, where you have 747 flying domestic markets. I don't think we will get there, but we may put larger aircraft. So that is one side. The second side is the whole, sort of the seamless customer experience. How can we make the seamlessness, sort of enabled? As we look at, travel, for India to be a hub, you got to make the connectivity better. Okay, I don't quite think that, when you do domestic to international or domestic to domestic, we don't have the system that exists in the US, where at the hub airport, you don't need to clear security. You can just move around, right? If you go to Chicago, for example, or Detroit, and if you're coming from one spoke going to another spoke, you can just transfer, within the concourse. Here, that's not possible. You got to come out all the way, go back in, okay? So there's a lot of talk about making India a hub, okay? But making India a hub, yes, geographically, India is well positioned to be a hub, but from an enablement standpoint, what are we going to do, to make sure that India becomes a hub, it competes well with the Middle Eastern hubs of, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, etc., and take advantage of a geographic positioning. It is happening, but the faster it happens, the better for the airlines.
From my perspective, if you look at infrastructure, there's two levels of infrastructure we can put it. One is from the aviation side, which is airport, airlines, and things like that. There's also another side which is outside this space as well. As and when you look at, I think Raja did mention that the metro airports are really congested. So there is an infrastructure constraint. In terms of we cannot even fly in to get one slot. It's not really that easy. No matter what time, even it's a late night, red eye flies, we're not getting it. So that's a kind of a constraint we are sitting. Of course, things are coming, but unfortunately, India is the one market where we are obviously seeing a 20% increase, but we are always a chaser of an infrastructure when it comes to aviation. We are not actually going ahead to see, how am I going to see, if I'm going to grow in the past 3 years, 20% each, literally is almost boils down to doubling up the growth in 3.5 years time. So are we really ready for that? So you build an infrastructure keeping this for the next 4-5 years. By the time you build it, it's already kind of congested. So we are kind of a chasers in that perspective. So who is responsible? It is a collective responsibility of various stakeholders, especially with the government perspective. So that's very, very important. And that also should allow the newer participant to really grow as well. Otherwise, what happens is the big guys remain as big, but the ones who wanted to grow much faster will always be sitting on a constraint. That is from an aviation perspective. You also pointed out in terms of seamless connectivity, which is, if you look at all the aviation markets, be it in the US or in the Middle East or in the Southeast Asia, all of them actually grown purely because of the hub. Look at Malaysia. They have Kuala Lumpur 1, KLIA at 1, KLIA at 2. Changi has 4 terminals. Then Bangkok, they have 2 airports within the city. And they're still able to connect between these two. Though it is Sonabhumi and Don Muang, they still have the public transport which is available. So that type of infrastructure in terms of outside the aviation space is also very important. For example, we have a flight from Bangalore. The lowest fare which you operate sometimes is almost 700 rupees. 699 is what we offer, all in, including taxes, everything. But actually it takes almost 800 rupees for a guy from a city to come to airport. But to fly to another city, it takes only 700. So, why is it? Because he doesn't have, we don't have a public infrastructure which actually feeds into the airport, which is very, very crucial. Same goes with Kochi, same goes with Kolkata. All these airports where it's actually outside, we don't have a feeding system into the airport. Once you start that, because you're speaking about building a first-time traveler, and you're speaking about how am I going to bring this guy? My fare may be attractive, but the questions he would start asking is like, to go itself is so much. There are a lot of times people did ask, for me it took only 1,000 rupees for me to come from there to here, but the taxi guy is charging 1,200. It becomes more, meaningless, right? Unfortunately, in India is one country where airline is the last guy to make money. Airport makes money, the government makes money, or everyone makes money. The airline is the one who makes last. But we always blame for various things in terms of, charging.
So what's stopping airlines to actively cross-sell such feeding transportations into the airport? Like a lot of airlines and countries have it, including in KL, right? Fly plus train,
Yes.
in Tokyo as well, Taiwan as well, even parts of Europe. What's stopping Indian carriers to facilitate such kinds of transportation to a more in a more aggressive manner?
No, we are doing it. But at the same time, for the kind of potential we are sitting, what we are doing is actually little. Airlines are taking several steps forward in terms of building that, bringing in that growth. But how is supported by various stakeholders who actually benefit from this kind of a traffic which are bringing in is very key. Tourism plays a very, very vital role, because tourism is one actually helps us in terms of feeding it, right? It has to be part of a tourism agenda, unlike other markets. Because as an airline, we are a group airline. We are a group of 9 airlines present in different countries. We actually see a very strong support from the government and the tourism in other markets. Here, we are seeing a support, but it's not like a committed support. It's like, sporadic support. You do one, then you move on. Right? That has to be part of the government itself has to really look at as an ecosystem. Right? Only then, and everyone has to be given that kind of priority to, sustain and grow further.
Salim, you probably spend the most time across the panelists at the airports and overseeing one of a very important aspect, security. Walk us through the opportunity that India has from enhancing the in-airport passenger experiencing, making security almost invisible. Like we're talking about technologies coming in, various parts of the world trying face scanning, biometrics and whatnot, RFIDs. Talk about where India can go with it if done correctly.
During your discussion, there was this word, seamless travel, a lot of time, So you guys were talking in terms of connectivity and getting from one airport to the other. Remember one thing, whatever happens at the airport, security is involved there. It is already very invisible right now. It's hardly that you will see that if you're going from what you call a pre-embarkation security check, you will see a man in uniform who will stop you and frisk you. Or if you go to an immigration desk, there is a very good mix in India right now. In fact, I need to praise everybody across all the airports. Yes, there are challenges, but we go to 9 airports right now, and everywhere we do not hear of a security issue as such. The new Digi Yatra which is coming, it's going to make travel so easy. I can be sure that probably in a few years to come, you probably would have a QR code on your mobile phone, which would have 10 to 5 sectors on it when it is scanned, and you will travel seamless all across India.
Talk about Digi Yatra for people who don't know.
Digi Yatra is a new government initiative where you enroll yourself, okay, and those old days of stamping on your boarding passes and stamping on your hand baggages all gets redundant. It's still new, it has just started. If you go to Mumbai airport, probably you will be experiencing it, or if anybody has traveled out of Hyderabad, you will see that they don't need to stamp anywhere. You just walk through. You carry your entire boarding pass along with you till you board the aircraft. So that's the new thing which is coming. The government and the aviation bodies, the aviation security bodies are also working a lot on biometrics, facial recognition. Artificial intelligence is the new in. That is something which, whether we like it or not, I'm very scared of it, because you call something artificial and then you join the word intelligent to it. So it's a very scary word. And if you read Bible or you read any of the holy books, the devil is always called the snake. So the software that we use to make AI is called the Python. It's a very scary thing for me. The problem with AI is we humans, whatever feed in it, it's going to become intelligent, and after some time it is going to tell us what to do. That's what it is. And AI is something we cannot get away with. That is the future. But having said that, we have, luckily in India, you have a lot of stalwarts, a lot of aviation security experts, which make sure the instruments, the aviation security instruments, the processes, the protocol which have been made, are working on seamless travel. So there is a lot of opportunities here. I would like to call the 3 E's, which I call it. Everybody who wants to join the aviation industry, security industry per se, this is the right time, but you'll have to have the 3 E. First, you'll have to educate yourself into this field, because it's no more a man standing there and frisking you and touching you when you walk by. There's a lot of technology used, machines, there are CCTVs who can automatically catch a person's abnormal behavior in a crowd. They have become so intelligent. So you need to first have the education required, work in the aviation sector, get some experience. And once you get that experience, you have to build an expertise. Once we have these 3 qualities, your AI, your facial recognition, your biometrics, whatever will be put in place will be in the right time, right conduct, and it's going to be seamless as they all want it. So that's something that we need to look into, and this big scope for aviation security right now. It is.
So I agree with my friend, but I think that a lot of innovation is happening, but it's still happening in major airports, metros. If you go to a tier 2 town, you still has to go through all that hassle. We are not thinking from customer standpoint. First time travel. There are many first time travelers from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That's where we need to have these technologies in place, which is not happening on the ground. Right, we are still not gone away by those stamps, the security stamps. It's only gone away from 4-5 airports. It started a year and a half back, but imagine that the pace which we are going on, the pace which we need this faster technology and evolution happening on the ground, it's too slow, and it requires the public-private partnership. It doesn't happen otherwise.
But if I may ask you to think in the other direction like I am thinking, usually when we start something new, we do it on a small scale, okay, so that we can do it on a larger scale. But if you see the Digi Yatra and all this, they are being done at bigger airports. So it's not very difficult for us to put at small airports. I agree with you, but it's coming there soon. We just need a little patience, I guess,
India has patience. We have been very tolerant. Yes.
So let's talk about distribution for a second. Again, the face of distribution has changed considerably in the last decade in itself. And because we are also at a trade show, a lot of us deal with these changes day in, day out. We're talking about on one side in markets like US, you're getting AI-based price predictors in the form of hoppers and kayak price guarantee checks. How is your airline looking at evolving the passenger booking experience, be it directly or even through your channel partners? What are some of the philosophies that you are looking into the next decade of distribution?
So let me talk about the way Jet Airways is looking at it and some of the things that we are trying to do. I mean, you have I think there are 2 components when it comes to distribution. Certainly there is the economics of distribution, okay? When you sort of look at India, Jet, Vistara and Air India are the ones that distribute through the GDSs, and then the rest of the low-cost carriers sort of distribute through Navitaire, Radix, whatever the case may be, right? And in our case, that distribute through the GDSs, we are hampered, with a much higher distribution cost. And distribution being the distribution costs being perhaps one of the largest controllable costs, for any airline, that puts us under a severe economic disadvantage, in our ability to compete in the Indian market. So we have taken some measures. We have taken some bold measures. You would have read all the news about Air India, them sort of going with, a single distribution setup, single GDS setup. We are taking a dual GDS setup from the 1st of April. So, we are confident that we'll be able to considerably address the cost side of, the economic side of the distribution. Now comes the customer side of it. How do we make sure that we provide the customer with a wide variety of fare choices? We have the right mix of bundling and unbundling opportunities. The GDSs are getting better. So whatever we do, yes, there is a component of what we sell that is directly on the website. But unlike the US, for example, where even the legacy carriers sell 50-55% of the inventory on the web, it is much smaller in India. Okay, so there's a huge OTA presence. Still a considerable amount of tickets that are sold, through the travel agencies. So on the web, we are embarking on a pretty ambitious digital transformation strategy that's going to straddle both the website as well as the mobile platform. When it comes to the GDSs are getting better, and we have a ambitious branded fare initiative, that we want to put in place over the next 12 to 18 months. And all the three major GDSs, and in our case, it's going to be more Travelport and Sabre. They have their own branded fare, rich content, that is available. It's a question of us starting to take advantage of that, and we will start rolling it out in phases over the next, year or so. So, so just to summarize, we want to address the cost side of the equation, which we believe we have. Now comes the question of how do we approach this from an ancillary bundling, unbundling standpoint, making sure that we leverage our distribution platform to achieve the right level of upsell, bring in the right set of ancillaries, okay, and take advantage. The last but not the least, the European carriers in particular have spent a lot of money on NDC, okay, the new distribution capability that IATA has been pushing, okay. I think it is still very much in the infancy stage. There has been a considerable investment that's been made, but I think it's still a few years, before we can say that, it's here to stay, and because even these European carriers, they only see a very, very small penetration coming out of the NDC platform, and we just don't have the wherewithal invest tens of millions of dollars, on that setup. But over time, it's going to get standardized, it's going to get cheaper, and as we look at, how NDC fits in, in this 21st century distribution setup, we will take the plunge into NDC, but as of now, we are in the wait and watch mode.
So Raj, at a macro level and not specific to Jet, but at an industry level, is it the mindset shift into unbundling that's the biggest obstacle, or the technology? Because low-cost carriers from day one, they think of it as we want to unbundle everything, right? And then obviously there's a bigger pool which is sticking with the legacy software solutions which are evolving. So on which side does it lead?
Then again, there's something about data protection here.
Yeah.
How okay are you to share your data with the agencies? It also depends on individual. As much as we are progressing, there are more human rights coming in. So today I can very well stand there and say, I have an Aadhaar card, but I don't want to give it. Okay. I have a right as an Indian citizen to do that. So it's about a mindset. It needs to change. If you want a seamless travel, you also have to come forward, help the government agencies, the security agents in the country, and say, listen, I'm okay to share my data. Take it, but make it easier for me. With the population we have, there's always going to be a different mindset. That's what it becomes challenging, I hope I've answered.
Yeah, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got another question, the final question here.
Hi, I'm from the hotel industry, so I can tell you that it's not the airlines which makes the money last, it's the hotels which make the money last. My question to all the gentlemen is, what's the future of Indian aviation? Is it going to be low-cost, unbundled services, or is it going to be full services? Because some of you make money. Emirates definitely makes money, and Indigo makes money. The quarter results were not very good, though. Jet, of course, we all know, and AirAsia, I'm not too sure. So what's going to be the future? Is it just going to be unbundled and low cost, which is going to make money in the future? To all the panelists, if you can answer one by one, please. Thanks.
So from my view, we strongly believe pay for what you use is the future, right? Of course, AirAsia as a group, we are a very profitable company in the whole of Asia. Our RASK is one of the highest as a group. We are seeing that the trend is there, right? So the growth of LCCs in India itself clearly says that people are accepting to it, and we are moving towards it, right? Even the full service carriers start charging things, so it's slowly they're also moving to that space. So pay for what you use is going to be the future. You will be offered with everything what you need, what otherwise you would get it as a bundle, but you just have to pay for it. But what it comes with is plenty of options. You will be provided more choices, but you just have to pay for it. That's it.
So there is an audience for everything, right? So there are people who are willing to pay, there are people who are not willing to pay. But ultimately, a company which is going to add value to the consumer experience, so there is no money problem. People don't mind paying money if you add that value, if you really give them that hassle-free experience. So, it shows in all that data and all the services companies offer.
Is that it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, Rajkumar, Raj, Nitin, and Salim. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody.